Sass is awesome, and that's whether you're using Sass or SCSS. The thing is, though, a lot of people, when they first get started with it, use an extension to compile their Sass or their SCSS. And if you're one of those people, well, you really shouldn't be using one. Hello, my front-end friends, and welcome back to yet another video. I'm so glad that you've come to join me once again. And if you're new here, my name is Kevin, and here at my channel, I help you fall madly, deeply in love with CSS. And if I can't make you fall in love with it, I'm hoping to at least make you a little bit less frustrated by it. And today we're going to be doing that by getting you less frustrated with Sass, which is one of my favorite ways to author my own CSS. So we're going to start off by looking at one potential problem, which is you're using the wrong extension. And then we're going to see how you can actually fix that and get an extension that does the job. But then we're going to see a problem even if you have an extension that's working properly. And so right here, I have VS Code on the screen, and I'm using modern Sass stuff that you might come across, like use and forward, which are part of the Sass module system that now exists. And so you'll see there's, some sassy stuff generally going on. I have a little bit more. I have a whole bunch of files, actually. If we go look, I'm importing everything. There's, tons of stuff going on in here. And I need to compile my CSS for the browser to actually have something to look at. And so the first problem that can come up with an extension is, let's go and click this Watch Sass extension. So that means it's an extension, it's installed. It's the one that you always see. It's called Live Sass Compiler. And you can see, look, it did it. It saw that I have some SCSS stuff. It compiled it to a CSS file. It even built the map for me, which is fantastic. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. And then we can come here and you can see it created this style.css. And wait, why is that my style.css? That's not what it should look like. It should have a whole bunch of CSS that the browser can actually understand. Oh, okay. Well, and you might be going, Kevin, there's a reason this is happening. You have the wrong extension. We're going to talk about that. Don't worry. But just to show you, if you do have the wrong extension installed, or maybe you're not even using an extension, but you're using Node Sass in your project rather than the most recent version of Sass. And here, just to show you another problem that can come up, and this is the most infuriating one, because maybe you go, I'm not using use, I'm not using forward, I'm just using the old import syntax, I'm not running into any problems, everything is fine. But actually, let's go down to my style.scss file here, which will look a lot like this, which they shouldn't look like. This should look like this, and it should get turned into something completely different over in my CSS file. But back in this one, let's say we wanted to do a little bit of modern CSS, just to show you that things aren't working properly. So I have a container, and we used to have to do things the long way, but now we have modern CSS techniques. So I can say width min, and I want to do 100% minus 2 rem, comma 60 rem. And this is just meaning like take up all the space, but leave a little space on each side so 2 rem, 1 rem on each side, but never be bigger than 60 rem. So it's sort of like setting a max width of 60 there. And then I can just say a margin inline of auto to keep it centered on the page. I hit save. And I get a compilation error. Incompatible units, rem and percentages, but I'm doing this inside a min function, which should take any units I throw at it. Well, that's because, again, this is built on Node Sass, which didn't support min. Min didn't exist back when Node Sass was a thing. And so you're probably saying, Kevin, it's because you're using the wrong extension. But I just want to say the extension I'm using now has like 2 million installations. And there isn't updated, there's a newer version that prevents problems like this from happening. We're going to see it now, because if you really want to use an extension, you should at least be using this extension that I'll be showing you. And it will solve this problem. So let's turn off the watch Sass. So yeah, this will solve the problem, but there's better ways of working. So we'll jump over to my extensions. Let's just write Sass. And you'll see the first one is this live Sass compiler showing at the top by Ritwick Day. And yeah, almost 2 million installations. But if you go over to the changelog and close this for now, it hasn't been updated since 2018. Oh, that sucks. And this is one of the problems with extensions in general, is sometimes the person who's been spending a lot of time working on it and keeping it up to date, they don't need it anymore and they stop maintaining it. And so if we go look a little bit further down, there's another live Sass compiler. So I'm actually going to disable this one, disable. And we can do a reload because I have to. Because I reloaded, we'll look up Sass again. And we'll come back down to this live Sass compiler down here by Glenn Marks. And Glenn took the version, I think what he did is took the one from Ritwick and he forked it and made it work with the new Sass, Dart Sass. And that means everything should work. So let's enable this one. And I'm enabling it because I had it installed already. And just if we go look at the change log, it's been updated from when I'm recording this like 4 days ago. Which is really cool. That's awesome. It's being actively maintained. So that's really good news. So let's try that again. Let's come back over to here. Let's hit my watch Sass again. And it looks like I didn't get a compilation error. That's a good start. Let's go look over here. Oh, look, I actually have CSS that the browser is going to understand here. And if we go all the way to the bottom, we even get this. It's not causing any problems. It recognizes that and everything is working. So there we go, an extension, it works. Do we have anything to worry about? Well, if you're going to use an extension, use this one. So I'll link it down in the description below. But I want to make a very strong argument for why using the extension in the first place isn't the thing you should actually be doing, as you probably know from the title of this video. One of the issues, first of all, and I mean, nothing against Glenn here. I think he's doing a fantastic job with this. It's great that he's maintaining it, and it's something that's, I think, very useful. It's a nice learning tool because you can be having your Sass here. You know, you do this. This is what I always recommend people do. Let's split this to the right. And so you can be, we have too many things here. Let's we'll shrink that down a little bit. Let's close this. Let's close my extensions for a second. But you can be doing your work here. So we'll scroll all the way down. You know, I'm doing my work here and I change this over to a 90%. I hit save and then I can see the change happen over here. And I always recommend if you're learning Sass to have this. So if you're nesting things or you're doing other things, you have mix-ins or whatever it is, you can actually see the CSS that's being compiled to. So for things like that, for quick projects, you just need to like a proof of concept. You're throwing something together, perfectly fine using the extension. But first of all, if you are writing Sass, you're probably taking that next step as a developer anyway. But it's also if you're working in teams or if you're just doing something that's going to be maintained over a longer period of time, I think it's a really good idea to sort of get into the world of NPM and that side of things, which can sound really scary, but it's actually really, really easy. And so we're going to look at that side now. And what we're going to do is let's stop watching this. We'll close that down and we're going to delete that because I don't need that there. And it can be really hard to get started on this side of things. And it's something that's intimidating. And even for me, going into the command line and doing stuff, it's really not like my cup of tea. I'd rather, if I can have a GUI do something for me, and there's GUIs out there that can do Sass too. But if I can have something interactive that, you know, something on my screen, I can click a button and get it to work. It's so much easier. But this is the type of thing that's going to help you in the long run. It enables working in teams, and it's the type of thing you will see in the real world when you're working on an actual job. And wardrobe change, because future Kevin jumping in really quickly here, because as I was editing this, I realized I didn't really explain the benefits of setting things up this way compared to an extension. So the few important things that really come from doing it the way we're going to look at in a second, it's a lot more robust. And as I said, this is something that you'd be using when you have a job. You're not going to be using an extension probably. And by doing something like this, it's going to take, you open up your terminal, which can be scary, but don't worry, we're going to see it's really simple. You open it up, you can write 4 words basically in your command line, and that's going to get everything set up for your project and get the project up and running, compiling your Sass every single time. And it has the advantage that this is something that is going to allow for much more consistency. If you have multiple people working on the project, you don't have to be like, oh yeah, download these files and also then use this extension to do this and then use this extension to do that. If it's yourself in the future trying to remember what extensions you were using or anything like that. And of course, if a project stops getting maintained, that also causes some issues because you can just put everything up on GitHub, and even if you're not using it, you will start using it at one point, but this will work either way. But you put all your stuff up on GitHub, other people can take those project files and start working on them. They're going to know what to do. You write, as I said, 1 line to get everything set up, a 2nd line to launch everything and get it all working. It's going to watch your Sass files. It's going to run browser sync in the browser, so you don't have to, you hit save, the updates are automatically happening. You can have your dev environment running, and then there is a second build command that does a little bit more work to optimize things, to get things ready for production. And even in there, you could add more things like image optimization and other stuff and customize what we're looking at. And it's going to be consistent with that project, no matter who's working on it, no matter what computer you're on working on it, or anything like that. So it is one extra step, and you can see there's a bit more to this video, so we're going to be breaking down what all of these things are doing. But if you're doing this on your own, it takes no cognitive load to actually get this going. The project set up, you can just fire away, get it working. And as I said, this is also something that is going to be what you're going to use in the real world, whether it's not exactly this, but you're going to be going in the command line. you're going to be running things like Vite, or you're going to be running things like Webpack, or whatever it is. So this is sort of a simple version of that that's going to work for setting things up. And it's a really nice introduction, I think, to this world of having some scripts and doing a little bit of customization in there. And to make it as easy as possible to get started, we're going to look at this, which is a minimum static site setup with Sass. And this is by Stephanie Eccles, who's recently published it on her website. And yeah, it's really cool. So we're going to look at how we can use this to get up and running and some little modifications we can make to it to just get it to a little bit more than what it's already doing. And basically it's a package.json file. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. And if you do, well, then you have an idea of what it's doing already. And so I'm going to copy all of this and I'm going to come over into my project here. We need to get to my files. And you'll notice right now I have everything in an SRC folder. This is important. So if you just have everything like in the root folder, what you'd want to do is create an SRC folder and just drag all of your stuff in there. And actually we can delete the CSS file too. And so I have just my assets, I have images, my fonts and stuff in there. That doesn't matter so much. The things that are important are, let's make all this bigger a little bit actually. The things that are important are your index is directly in the SRC here. You have a Sass folder, so not an SCSS folder. It has to be called Sass, and then everything else, it doesn't matter because we're going to, or I mean, you could modify it and we'll see how we could do that. And then we have this assets. And what I'm going to do is come and make a new file called package.json. And let's close all of these. And what's really, really important, I said this, but we need to make sure it's not inside this SRC. It's really at the root of your project right here. So just double check that it's there. And then we can paste in what we copied from Steph's blog and everything that's here. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here. It might look overwhelming. I'm not going to, we'll sort of work our way through this once we get it up and running because we're going to modify it a little bit to do a little bit extra. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to open up the terminal. You can do that by going to View and go to Terminal here. Or you can just do a control backtick and it should open that up. And I'm going to do an npm install. Before we do that, I'm looking down here because I just want to show you, if you've never done an npm install before, you've never used npm, you will need to install Node on your computer. Or if you try doing this and it doesn't work for whatever reason, come and download the recommended for most users version. It's just an installer. It's just when it pops up, click next a bunch of times, and then it's going to install on your system. And once it's done, you'll be ready to go. So with that, you come here and you do an npm install. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at all these dependencies here, and it's going to install all of these dependencies into our project in a folder called node modules. So npm install. And I got an error, and you know why I got this error? Because I forgot to save this file after I pasted everything in. So let's save that, and then I'm going to write clear here just so we can get rid of all that, and we'll do an npm install again. And there we go, this time it's working. I had to hold my breath there and I'm like, did I do something else wrong? But it shouldn't take too long. It's gonna run through and again, install all of these dependencies right here. Now, while it's doing that, I'm also gonna come here. Oh, it's not done, but you can see it's putting in node modules. That's where all this stuff is getting installed into. So I'm also gonna make a new thing called .git ignore. So it's .git ignore. And this is assuming you're going to be putting your project up on GitHub or something like that. We don't actually want to bring all of this stuff in there every time because it's really heavy. When you want to download it, you have to re-download everything. So generally you don't put those things up on GitHub. And so I'm just going to come here and tell it. So if we're uploading to Git, we want to make sure it's not coming. So we just write node modules like that. And I'll put a /. It sort of says, don't take that folder. And I'm also going to do another one here that's going to say public, and we'll look at why we're doing that one as well. But I'm going to hit save on that just so we have our git ignore there, and we'll close that down. And actually, I just noticed here you can see there's some high severity vulnerabilities right now. I'm pretty sure that one of those is coming from browser sync, at least based on Steph's blog post. So eventually, when you do it, you might not even see those. All of these are only being used in the dev environment. They're not actually ending up online or anything. So you shouldn't run into any problems with any of them. Or the issue there. So we have that. We're going to leave this open actually, but I'll put a clear there. So if we come here, just to look really fast, we have a whole bunch of scripts, and these are npm scripts. So there's other ways and other systems that we can build for like task runners and other stuff. I've looked at using Parcel as well as Gulp in the past for getting Sass running. But this is a little bit of a simpler approach where we're just using npm scripts to do different stuff. And the ones that are really important here are the start and the build ones. The start is for your dev environment, and the build is when you're ready, when you're finished your project. And I won't run through, and we're gonna have to do a little bit more because right now, let's try it. We're gonna do the start. We're gonna launch a dev environment. So npm start. And what that's doing is it's running through a bunch of these other commands that are there to actually get things to work. And when it does that, the cool thing with it is it is opening it up in another window. You can see my Sass isn't actually working, but let's go. And now that I've done that, you see it's created this new public folder, which is why I added that other, in the git ignore, we added the public. We don't need this to end up on GitHub. We only need all the dev environment stuff to be on GitHub. So let's go look at what it gave us. It gave us public, and then it gave us an index here. So there's my regular HTML. It copied that over from my source. And instead of having a Sass whole bunch of stuff in here, it's just giving me one CSS file. And so we can come and look in here and we can see, look, all my CSS is there. And when I did that, it actually opened up in Chrome in another window, but we can see everything I wanted is there. So that's really cool. And so if we come and take a look, we can see that everything has come over except I have these weird, I'm supposed to have a background image here and I had an image over here and my images aren't working and there's some stuff missing. Well, that's because the way Steph has set this up, it doesn't currently copy any assets. It only copies your HTML and your Sass, but we're going to see how we can fix that in just a second. But I do want to show you what's nice about this is if we come here and let's come and update something. So here, just as a really fast one, body background is red. In my Sass file, SCSS, I hit save and it's updated. Browser sync is working, it's automatically firing things up and it's connected. So as soon as I make a change and hit save on my browser, it's getting pushed and I don't have to worry about it. So if I come in my HTML, I should be able to make a change. So let's just come on this title that I have right here. Page title, let's just take off the word home cooked. And I should be able to do this, but it's not going to work. And you can see it didn't actually update it. That's kind of annoying, but we'll look at why. And at the same time, we'll add in the ability to bring our pictures in and everything as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down back in our terminal at the bottom here, and I'm going to do Control-C, and it's going to ask, do I want to terminate the job? I'm going to say yes and hit return. I don't know if that's Command-C on a Mac or not. I am on Windows. And the reason that the HTML is not updating when I save is because I'm on Windows. If you're on a Mac, you do not need to make this change. And so let's fix that one first. Let's come over to my package.json. And the reason for that is on this watch HTML, it's using an npm package called onChange, and onChange what are we looking for? We're looking for something that's in my source folder, and we're looking for any HTML file that's in there. The problem that's happening right now with this is, for whatever reason on Windows, it doesn't let you have single quotations. It just doesn't work. Windows is funny like that. So these need to be double quotations. But if I do double quotations, that breaks everything as well. So it just means you have to escape them first. So you have to put a / right there, or a backslash, I should say, and then a backslash right here. So the backslashes go before the quotation. And if I do that and I save, that means now the onChange for my HTML will work. And the other thing we can do is come down, and I want to be able to bring all my pictures over. And I've chosen to put all my pictures in this assets folder here. So if you have a different folder, you called it images or whatever, you can always come in with a different one. And so what I'm going to do is actually just copy this whole line right here. And we're going to come up here and do a paste, and we're going to call it watch assets instead. And we need a copy assets as well. So we're going to take this copy one that's here, and we can come and paste that there and say copy assets. And the only difference is we can leave everything here identical to what we have. Just here, instead of a source and then HTML file, I'm going to come in here, let's delete all of this. I'm going to write assets. And then I'm going to do a / /**. And this might look a little bit weird if you've never seen globbing before, which is what this is called. But basically it means it's going to look in my assets folder, and it's going to look for any file that's in the assets folder, even if it's nested within another folder. So that's just, it's a wildcard. Look at every file in here and look at every file within a folder within of there. So it just covers all my bases. So I don't have to make one looking for JPEGs, make another one looking for WebMs or WebPs, and make another one, just covers all our bases with one here, one single thing. And then we can take this same thing without the dot in front of it, copy that one, and use that one right here as well for the watch assets. So let's hit save on that. The cool thing with how Steph has set this up is this is copy assets, copy HTML, and watch assets, watch HTML, watch Sass. We don't actually need to modify anything else, because Steph set this up saying any watch command is just going to run or any when we do the build and all of that. So like we don't have to worry about, you could make 10 new copies or whatever it is, and it should just work out of the box. So let's try it out. We're going to open up my terminal again. We do our npm start, and if everything worked properly, we should see over here. We might have to do a hard refresh. It takes a second. Oh, it opened in a new window. We'll copy that, paste it over, and there we go. All my images have come in, and we can see everything is working. I should have, wow, so much nicer than what we had before. And now let's go and test it out and make sure we can open my index file. And did I open the wrong one, or in my source folder? So we can take the word, let's come down to this one since it's on the screen. Take this and we'll write that, hit save. This does take a little second to do. You can see there it has switched over, and now it says that though. And let's put it back to this, hit save, and it takes a second to build the HTML files because it has to build everything, but it gets done pretty quickly. With the Sass files though, if you're modifying your CSS, it's done almost instantly. So a really big thank you to Steph for creating this and making it really easy to get started with all of this. And an extra bonus thing with this is if we bring this onto GitHub and you want to host it with GitHub Pages or with Netlify or Vercel or something like that, you can get it to do all of this for you, right? So you push a change up there, it sees that it's a new file, it rebuilds your site, it runs these build commands, and it builds your site based on those build commands. So the Sass gets compiled and all of that. If you'd like to see how you can do that, it's not with this exact setup, but I've looked at how we can do that. So you can watch that video right here. And just to let you know, I am working on a Sass course. So if it's something you'd like to know more about, there's a link to that down in the description. It's not out yet, but it will be out soon. And so if you sign up there, you'll get updates and you'll know once it launches. And with that, a big thank you to my supporters of Awesome, Jan, Johnny, Stuart, and Tim, as well as all of my patrons for their monthly support. And of course, until next time, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.